The Montana highway stretched empty in both directions, just asphalt and sky, and the kind of silence that made you think about your life choices. Derek Sullivan had been riding for 6 hours straight, pushing his Harley from Billings toward Missoula, when he saw her. A woman sitting on the guardrail, head in her hands, a small sedan parked on the shoulder with its hood up. Steam rose from the engine. Even from a distance, Derek could see her shoulders shaking. She was crying. Derek was 42, lean from years on the road, with a beard going gray and tattoos that told the story of a life lived hard and rough. He'd been riding with the Road Warriors MC for 8 years now, long enough to have the patches and the scars. He'd seen plenty of breakdowns on the highway. Usually he'd wave and keep riding. Not his problem, not his business, but something about this woman made him slow down. Maybe it was the way she was hunched over, completely defeated. Maybe it was the fact that she was alone on a stretch of highway that saw maybe 10 cars an hour. Maybe it was just that he'd been that desperate once, broken down on the side of life with no one stopping to help. Derek pulled over about 20 feet ahead of her car. He killed the engine and stood, stretching legs that had been folded too long. The woman looked up at the sound, her face streaked with tears. She was in her early 30s, dark hair pulled back, wearing business casual clothes that looked wrong for a Montana highway. She immediately stood, taking a step back. Fear flickered across her face. A woman alone, a biker pulling over. Derek recognized the look. He'd seen it plenty of times. He held up his hands, staying by his bike. "Ma'am, I'm not here to bother you." "Saw you were having car trouble. You need help?" The woman hesitated. She glanced at her steaming car, then back at Derek. "My engine overheated. I already called a tow truck, but they said it'll be 2 hours." "You got water? Coolant?" "No, I don't know anything about cars." Her voice broke. "I'm sorry, I'm just having a really bad day," and she stopped, fighting more tears. Derek had 2 sisters. He recognized the edge of breakdown when he saw it. This wasn't just about a car. "Look, I've got some water in my saddlebag. Probably enough to get your coolant level up so you can at least make it to the next town. I can take a look if you want. I'm pretty good with engines." He paused. "I know I probably look intimidating, but I'm just trying to help. You can keep your distance, watch what I'm doing. I won't get close to you, okay?" The woman studied him. Derek could see her doing the calculation, risk versus need. Finally, she nodded. "Okay, thank you." Derek grabbed a gallon jug of water from his saddlebag and approached the car slowly, making sure to stay visible, non-threatening. He looked under the hood. Radiator was low, hose connection was loose. Simple fix, 15 minutes tops. "You got a rag or towel? I need to tighten this hose and it's hot." The woman rummaged in her trunk and found a beach towel. Derek worked quickly and efficiently, tightening the connection, pouring water into the radiator, checking the other hoses. The woman watched from a safe distance, phone in her hand like a lifeline. "This should get you to the next town," Derek said, closing the hood. "But you need to get that hose replaced properly. It's old, could blow out again. There's a garage in Drummond, about 30 miles west. Ask for Pete. Tell him Derek from the Road Warriors sent you. He'll treat you fair." "How much do I owe you?" "Nothing. Just doing what anyone should do." The woman's face crumpled. Fresh tears spilled over. "I'm sorry. I'm not usually like this. It's just been the worst month of my life. And now my car breaks down and I'm supposed to be at a job interview in Missoula in 2 hours, and I look like hell, and—" She stopped, covering her face with her hands. Derek stood awkwardly, unsure what to do. Crying women were outside his skill set. "You want to talk about it?" "Sometimes helps to tell a stranger. I'm not going anywhere for a few minutes." The woman laughed, but it was bitter. "You really want to hear about my terrible life? Got nothing but time." She sat back down on the guardrail. Derek leaned against her car, giving her space. "My name's Rachel. Rachel Porter. 3 weeks ago, I got fired from my teaching job in Billings. Budget cuts. I loved that job. Taught English to high school kids for 7 years. Then it was just gone. That's rough." "It gets better," Rachel said, her voice dripping sarcasm. "My boyfriend of 4 years? He left me 2 days after I got fired, said he couldn't be with someone with no ambition. I lost my job and he called me unambitious." She wiped her eyes. "I've been applying everywhere. Finally got an interview for a position at a private school in Missoula. It's my only chance. and now my car breaks down, and I'm going to miss it, and her voice broke completely. Derek was quiet for a moment. You're not going to miss it. The interview's at 2. It's almost noon now. Even if my car runs, I'm a mess. I can't show up looking like this. What if you didn't drive? Rachel looked at him, confused. What? I'm heading to Missoula anyway. You can ride with me. We'll get there by 1:30. Easy. You'll have time to clean up in a restroom somewhere, collect yourself, make your interview. On your motorcycle? It's how I travel. Got a spare helmet in my saddlebag. You ever ridden before? No, never. It's safe if you hold on and lean with me in the turns. I've been riding 20 years, never dropped a passenger. Rachel stared at him like he was suggesting they sprout wings and fly. I don't know you. For all I know, you could be a serial killer? Fair point. Derek pulled out his phone. Call someone. Tell them my name's Derek Sullivan. Give them my license plate number. Tell them you're riding with me to Missoula, and if you don't check in by 2 o'clock, they should call the cops. He showed her his license. Here's my info. My ID. Take a picture of it. Send it to whoever you trust. Rachel took a photo of his license, sent it to someone with shaking hands. My sister's a cop in Billings, and she'll kill you if anything happens to me. Good. Everyone should have backup. Derek grabbed the spare helmet. So what do you say? You want to make this interview or sit here crying while opportunity passes you by? Rachel looked at her car, at the highway, at Derek, then she stood up. Okay, let's do it. But if you try anything, your sister the cop will hunt me down. I got it. Derek handed her the helmet. Put this on. Strap goes under your chin. It'll feel weird at first, but you'll get used to it. Rachel secured the helmet with trembling hands. Derek straddled his bike and motioned for her to climb on behind him. She hesitated, then swung her leg over and settled onto the seat. Hold on to me. Tight. Don't be shy. If you don't hold on, you'll slide off in the first turn. Arms around my waist. When I lean, you lean with me. Don't fight the turn. Just move with the bike. Rachel wrapped her arms around Derek's torso, gripping tight. Derek felt her shaking. You okay back there? Terrified. That's normal. You'll be fine. Trust me. Derek started the engine. The Harley rumbled to life beneath them. He felt Rachel tense up, her grip tightening almost painfully. He eased onto the highway slowly, giving her time to adjust to the sensation. After the first mile, he felt her relax slightly. By the second mile, she'd stopped shaking. By the 5th mile, he heard her laugh, actually laugh, as they leaned into a curve and the world tilted and righted itself again. They rode for 45 minutes, in comfortable silence. Derek kept his speed reasonable, his turns smooth. Rachel held on and let herself trust this stranger who'd stopped for a crying woman on the side of the road. As they approached Missoula, Derek called back over his shoulder. Where's the interview? Mountain View Academy. It's a private school on the west side. Derek knew the area. He pulled into a gas station 3 blocks from the school. We've got 30 minutes. There's a restroom inside. You can clean up, fix your makeup, whatever you need. I'll wait here. Rachel climbed off the bike on wobbly legs. She pulled off the helmet and handed it to Derek. Her hair was a mess. Her eyes were still red, but she was smiling. Thank you. I can't believe you did this for me. Like I said, just doing what anyone should do. No, most people would have driven past. You stopped. Rachel paused. Can I ask you something? Why did you stop? Really? Derek was quiet for a moment. Because 15 years ago, I was the one on the side of the road. I'd just gotten out of prison, 2 years for assault. I had no job, no money, no place to go. My bike had broken down on a highway in Wyoming, and I was sitting there wondering if it was even worth fixing. If anything was worth fixing. He looked at Rachel. A trucker stopped. Guy named Bill. He helped me get my bike running, gave me $100, told me about a garage in Cheyenne that was hiring, said everyone deserves a second chance. That one act of kindness changed my life. What happened? Got the job at the garage. Learned a trade, stayed clean, joined the Road Warriors, which gave me a brotherhood and a purpose. Built a whole life from that one moment when a stranger decided I was worth helping. Derek smiled. So when I see someone on the side of the road looking like their world's ending, I stop. Because someone stopped for me. Rachel's eyes filled with tears again, but they were different tears now. I'm going to nail this interview. And then I'm going to pay it forward, just like you. That's how it works. Rachel went inside to clean up. Derek sat on his bike and watched the traffic, thinking about Bill the trucker and the $100 bill he'd never been able to pay back. He'd tried to find Bill years later, but the man had died of a heart attack 5 years after their encounter. Derek had never gotten to say thank you, so instead, he said thank you by stopping for people like Rachel, by being the Bill for someone else's desperate moment. Rachel emerged from the gas station looking transformed. She'd fixed her makeup, tamed her hair, straightened her clothes. She looked professional, confident, ready. How do I look? Like a teacher who's about to get hired. Rachel checked her phone. I have 15 minutes. The school's 3 blocks away, you said? Yeah. You want me to wait? Give you a ride back to your car after? You'd do that. Got nothing else planned today. Rachel hugged him. Derek stiffened. Physical affection wasn't something he was used to, but he patted her back awkwardly. Go kill that interview. Thank you, Derek. Really, thank you. She walked toward the school with her head high, her shoulders back. Derek watched her go, then settled in to wait. He bought a soda from the gas station and sat on the curb beside his bike, scrolling through his phone. An hour passed, then 90 minutes. Derek was starting to wonder if Rachel had found another ride when she came running up, her face flushed with excitement. I got it. I got the job. That's great. They want me to start next week. It pays more than my old job. Better benefits, smaller class sizes. It's perfect. Rachel was practically bouncing. And I never would have made it if you hadn't stopped. I was ready to give up. Just sit there and cry and let the opportunity pass. You saved me. You saved yourself. I just gave you a ride. No, you did more than that. You reminded me that there are still good people in the world, that not everything is falling apart, that one bad month doesn't define a whole life. Rachel grabbed his hands. How can I thank you? You already did. You went to that interview. You fought for yourself. That's all the thanks I need. They rode back to Rachel's car in comfortable silence. The tow truck was just arriving when they pulled up. The driver, a grizzled man in his 60s, looked at Derek and grinned. Derek Sullivan. Haven't seen you in months. How you been? Good, Eddie. How's business? Can't complain. This your friend? Rachel. Met her when her car broke down. I got her to her job interview on time. Eddie checked the car. Hose connection's been fixed. Who did that? I did. Good work, but she still needs that hose replaced. I can tow it to Pete's garage in Drummond if you want, ma'am. Rachel nodded. Yes, please. Derek said Pete's trustworthy. He is. Tell him Eddie sent you. He'll give you a fair price. As Eddie hooked up the car, Rachel turned to Derek. Can I have your number? I want to stay in touch, let you know how the job goes, maybe buy you dinner to say thank you properly. Derek hesitated. He wasn't good at staying in touch, wasn't good at letting people into his life, but something about Rachel made him want to try. Yeah, okay. He recited his number. She put it in her phone. I'm serious about dinner. Once I get settled in Missoula, I'll hold you to it. Rachel climbed into the tow truck with Eddie. As they pulled away, she waved. Derek waved back, then mounted his bike and headed west toward Missoula, where he was supposed to meet some Road Warriors brothers at a bar. He'd gone maybe 5 miles when something nagged at him, something familiar about Rachel, the way she'd talked about her students, the way she'd said 7 years teaching English, the name Porter. Derek pulled over and grabbed his phone. He Googled Rachel Porter Teacher, Billings, Montana. The search results loaded, news articles, a school newsletter, and a photograph that made Derek's heart stop. It was Rachel, 5 years younger, standing with a group of students at a literacy event. The caption read, Rachel Porter and students from Jefferson High School's reading program celebrate award for excellence in education. Derek clicked another link, an article from 3 years ago about a teacher who'd started a program for at-risk students, who'd spent her own money buying books, who'd stayed after school every day to tutor kids who were failing, who'd fought the administration to keep the program running even when they wanted to cut it. That teacher was Rachel Porter. Derek stared at his phone, memories flooding back. 15 years ago, just out of prison, angry and lost and barely literate. He'd been placed in a mandatory adult education program as part of his parole, had to get his GED or go back inside. The program had been run by a local charity, but the teachers were volunteers from area schools. Derek had rotated through 3 teachers in 2 months. All of them had given up on him. He was hostile, uncooperative, convinced he was too stupid to learn. Then he'd gotten a new teacher. Young woman, fresh out of college, optimistic in a way that had made Derek want to mock her. She'd taken one look at his reading test scores and hadn't flinched, hadn't pitied him. Just said, "Okay, we'll start here." Everyone learns at their own pace. Her name had been Miss Porter. She'd worked with Derek twice a week for 8 months, had been patient when he was frustrated, had celebrated small victories, had never made him feel stupid, even when he couldn't read words a 3rd grader would know. She'd been the one who'd figured out Derek had dyslexia, had gotten him tested, had taught him strategies to work around it, had stayed late and come early, and believed he could learn when he didn't believe in himself. He'd passed his GED because of her, had gotten his reading level up enough to get a job, to function in the world, to build a life. And then she'd moved on to her next teaching job, and Derek had moved on with his life, and he'd never seen her again, until today, until he'd stopped for a crying woman on the side of the road and given her a ride, and never realized she was the person who'd saved his life 15 years earlier. Derek sat on the side of the highway, staring at Rachel Porter's photo on his phone, and started to laugh, then started to cry, then did both at once because life was strange and circular, and sometimes the universe gave you a chance to pay back a debt you didn't even know you owed. He called Rachel. She answered on the 2nd ring. "Derek? Is everything okay? Were you teaching adult education 15 years ago? GED program through some charity?" Silence. Then, "Yes. How did you know that?" "Because I was one of your students." "I didn't recognize you at first. You look different. I look different. It's been 15 years. But I just Googled you and saw your picture, and it clicked." Derek's voice shook. "You taught me to read, Rachel." "Really read. You figured out I had dyslexia, and you helped me learn to work around it. You spent 8 months tutoring a hostile ex-con who fought you every step. You never gave up on me." Rachel made a sound like a sob. "Derek Sullivan, oh my God, I remember you. You were so angry, so convinced you were stupid, but you weren't. You just learned differently. You changed my life. When I stopped for you today, I thought I was just being a good Samaritan, paying forward what someone did for me. I had no idea I was helping the person who'd saved me first." "That's..." Rachel's voice broke. "That's the most incredible coincidence." "I don't think it's coincidence. I think it's something else." Derek wiped his eyes. "I never got to thank you properly. Never got to tell you what you did for me. So I'm telling you now. You saved my life. You gave me the tools I needed to function in the world. Everything good that's happened since, my job, my club, my whole life, it started with you teaching me to read." Rachel was crying openly now. "I teach because I believe everyone deserves a chance. Everyone deserves to be seen and valued and helped. But most of the time, I never know if I make a difference. I see students for a few months or a year, and then they move on, and I never know what happens to them. I never know if anything I did mattered. It mattered. You mattered. You still matter." I needed to hear that today. After losing my job, after my boyfriend said I had no ambition, after feeling like maybe I was wasting my life, I needed to know it meant something. It meant everything. They were both crying now, connected across 15 years and hundreds of miles by a broken-down car and a chance encounter that wasn't chance at all. "That dinner I mentioned," Rachel said, "it's not just a thank you for the ride anymore. It's a thank you for everything, for letting me teach you, for showing me today that the work matters, for being proof that one person can change another person's life. I'd like that, but on one condition." "What?" "I buy. You already gave me more than I can ever repay. Least I can do is spring for dinner." Rachel laughed through her tears. "Deal." They talked for another 30 minutes, sharing stories about the 15 years since they'd last seen each other. Rachel told him about her teaching career, about the students she'd helped, about the program for at-risk youth she'd created. Derek told her about his work at the garage, about the road warriors and their charity rides, about the life he'd built from the foundation she'd helped lay. "I have a question," Rachel said. "When you stopped for me today, before you knew who I was, you said you stopped because someone stopped for you once. A trucker named Bill. Yeah, he gave me a second chance. So you've been paying that forward for years. Stopping for strangers, helping people. I guess, how many people do you think you've helped? Derek thought about it. The broken down cars, the stranded travelers, the people he'd given rides to, lent money to, pointed toward resources. I don't know, 30? 40? And how many of them do you think went on to help others? No idea. That's Bill's legacy. One act of kindness that rippled out through you to 40 other people, and from them to who knows how many others. That's how change happens. One person helping one person who helps one person. Rachel paused. And that's my legacy too. Teaching you to read, which led to you helping all those people, which led to you stopping for me today, which led to me getting this job, which will lead to me teaching hundreds more students. It's all connected. Derek had never thought about it that way, had never considered that his actions rippled out beyond the immediate moment. But Rachel was right. Every person he'd helped had gone on to live a life, make choices, potentially help others. The ripples spread farther than he could see. I wish I could have thanked Bill, Derek said, told him what he started. You thank him by continuing what he started, by stopping for crying women on the side of the road, by being the person others can count on. Rachel's voice was soft. And someday, one of the people you've helped will help someone else, who will help someone else, and the ripple will continue long after we're both gone. That's immortality, not living forever, but creating change that outlives you. They talked until Derek's phone battery was low. Finally, reluctantly, they said goodbye, with promises to meet for that dinner in 2 weeks, once Rachel was settled in Missoula. Derek rode the rest of the way to Missoula in a daze. He met his Road Warriors brothers at the bar, but his mind was elsewhere. He kept thinking about Rachel, about teenage Derek, angry and illiterate, fighting against a teacher who refused to give up on him, about Miss Porter, patient and kind, seeing potential where Derek saw only failure, about how 15 years later he'd stopped for a crying woman and accidentally repaid a debt he didn't know he owed. His club president, a man named Marcus, noticed Derek's distraction. You okay? You've been staring at your beer for 20 minutes. Derek told him the story. Marcus listened, then whistled low. That's some cosmic justice right there. Is that what it is? You saved the woman who saved you. Except you didn't know it until after. If that's not the universe balancing scales, I don't know what is. Marcus clapped Derek on the shoulder. Good work, brother. That's what we're supposed to be about. Helping people. Being there when nobody else is. I didn't do it for cosmic justice. I just stopped for someone who needed help. That's what makes it matter. You did it because it was right, not because you'd get something out of it. The fact that it turned out to be the woman who taught you to read, that's just the universe saying thank you. 2 weeks later, Derek met Rachel for dinner at a restaurant in Missoula. She looked different, happier, lighter, like someone had lifted a weight off her shoulders. She talked about her new job, her new students, the opportunities she saw in this fresh start. I've been thinking about what you said, Rachel told him over dessert, about Bill the trucker, about paying forward kindness. I want to start a program at my new school, a fund for students who need help, books, supplies, tutoring, whatever they need. I want to call it the Second Chances Scholarship, in honor of Bill and you and everyone who believes people deserve another opportunity. That's a hell of an idea. Will you help me? Not financially. I know teachers and bikers aren't exactly rolling in money, but will you come talk to my students, tell them your story, show them that where you start doesn't determine where you end up? Derek was uncomfortable with public speaking, wasn't good at being vulnerable in front of strangers, but he thought about Miss Porter, who'd spent 8 months helping a hostile ex-con learn to read, about Bill the trucker, who'd stopped for a broken-down biker and changed a life, about all the people who'd helped him when they didn't have to. Yeah, I'll do it. Derek spoke to Rachel's students in November. He stood in front of 30 teenagers and told them about being barely literate at 27, about being in prison, about being so convinced he was stupid that he'd fought every teacher who tried to help him. He told them about Miss Porter, who'd seen past his anger to the person underneath, who'd figured out he had dyslexia, who'd taught him to read using methods that worked with his brain instead of against it. I'm not going to tell you all my stories have happy endings, Derek said. I'm not going to pretend that one teacher fixed everything and suddenly my life was perfect. But what Ms. Porter, he corrected, seeing Rachel in the back of the room, did for me was give me tools. She gave me the ability to function in the world, to read, to learn, to build something. He paused, and 15 years later, I got to repay that debt without even knowing it. I stopped to help a stranger, and it turned out that stranger was the person who'd saved me first. That's how this works. You help people not knowing if it matters. You give what you can. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you get to see the impact. But most of the time, you don't. You just have to trust that kindness matters, that showing up matters, that refusing to give up on people matters. A student raised her hand. What if you're the one who needs help? What if you're the one broken down on the side of the road? Then you let people help you. You swallow your pride and you accept that sometimes you can't do it alone. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Derek looked at Rachel. Ms. Porter was crying on the side of the highway when I found her. Could have pretended she was fine. Could have refused help from a scary-looking biker. Instead, she took a chance. Let a stranger help, and it changed both our lives. After the talk, students lined up to talk to Derek. Some shared their own struggles. Some just wanted to shake his hand. One girl, crying, told him she'd been thinking about dropping out because reading was too hard. Don't, Derek said. I promise you, it gets easier. Your brain just works different. That's not wrong, it's just different. Talk to Miss Porter. She knows how to help. The girl nodded, wiping her eyes. Did you really not learn to read until you were 27? Really? I could barely read street signs when I met Miss Porter. Now I read all the time. Took me longer than most people, but I got there. So can you. Rachel's Second Chances Scholarship launched the following spring. The Road Warriors MC donated the proceeds from their annual charity ride. Derek's Garage contributed. Rachel's new school matched the funds. They raised enough to help 15 students with books, supplies, tutoring, and support. One of those students was the girl who'd wanted to drop out. She got tested for learning disabilities, was diagnosed with dyslexia, and started working with a specialist. 2 years later, she gave a speech at the scholarship ceremony about how Derek and Ms. Porter had saved her academic career. I was ready to give up, she told the audience. I thought I was stupid, that I'd never be able to read like everyone else. Then this biker came to our school and told us about being illiterate until he was 27, about how Miss Porter taught him to read. And I thought, if he can do it, maybe I can too. That hope changed everything. Derek sat in the audience, uncomfortable with the attention, but Rachel grabbed his hand and squeezed. That's your legacy, she whispered. That girl. And every other student who hears your story and decides not to give up. That's what Bill gave you, what I gave you, and what you're giving to others. The program expanded. Other schools heard about it and started their own Second Chances initiatives. The Road Warriors made it their primary charity. Rachel became a spokesperson for adult literacy and learning disabilities. Derek found himself speaking at schools and community centers, sharing his story, showing people that it was never too late to learn. 5 years after that encounter on the Montana highway, Derek and Rachel were invited to speak at a state education conference. They told their story, teacher and former student reunited by chance, creating change together, to an audience of 300 educators. We want teachers to understand something, Rachel said. You don't always get to see the impact of your work. Most of the time, you teach students for a year, and then they move on, and you never know what happens to them. You never know if you made a difference. But you did. You always do. Derek is proof of that. Derek stepped forward. And we want students to understand something. Asking for help isn't weakness. Accepting kindness isn't shameful. I spent years refusing help because I was too proud to admit I needed it. When I finally let someone help me, when I let Miss Porter teach me, that's when my life changed. So if you're struggling, let people help. There are teachers and counselors and strangers who will stop for you, who will see your worth even when you can't see it yourself. Let them. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. After the conference, Derek and Rachel sat in a coffee shop and reflected on the 5 years since that highway encounter. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't stopped? Rachel asked. Yeah, you would have missed your interview. might not have gotten the job. The scholarship program wouldn't exist. Those students wouldn't have been helped. And you would have kept writing, would have reached Missoula an hour earlier, had a different day, lived a different life. We would have remained strangers who'd briefly intersected 15 years ago and never met again. But I did stop. Why? Really? You told me about Bill the trucker, about paying it forward, but what made you stop that specific day for that specific person? Derek thought about it. I saw you sitting there, completely defeated. And I remembered being there, not on that highway, but in that emotional place where you've got nothing left and you're wondering why you should even keep trying. Someone pulled me out of that place. I figured maybe I could do the same for someone else. So it wasn't cosmic. It wasn't fate. It was just one person seeing another person in pain and deciding to help. Yeah, that's all it ever is. One person making a choice. Rachel smiled. And look what that one choice created. The scholarship. The students we've helped. The teachers who've changed their approach. The ripples spreading out from one broken down car on a Montana highway. Bill would be proud. Bill would be amazed. One trucker stopping for one broken down biker, leading to all of this. That's what we don't see when we help people. We don't see how far the impact spreads. We just do the right thing and trust that it matters. Derek's phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Brother from the Seattle chapter just stopped for a family with a flat tire. Dad's a veteran, struggling, asked if we had resources. Sending him to the VA, but wanted you to know. Your example's spreading. Every chapter's looking for ways to help now. You started something. Derek showed Rachel the text. She read it and her eyes filled with tears. That's 7 chapters of Road Warriors, Derek. Hundreds of bikers, all looking for people to help because you showed them it matters. How many people will they help? Thousands? Tens of thousands? And all because a trucker named Bill stopped for you 30 years ago. 15. Bill stopped for me 15 years ago. No, Bill started something 15 years ago. But it probably started before that. Someone probably helped Bill. And someone helped that person. We're all links in a chain that goes back further than we can see and forward further than we can imagine. Every act of kindness is part of that chain. Derek thought about the chain. Bill helping him helping Rachel helping her students growing up to help others, the Road Warriors helping stranded travelers who'd go on to help more people, an endless chain of kindness spreading out from every good choice, every moment of compassion, every time someone stopped when they could have kept going. I wish Bill knew, Derek said quietly. I wish he could see what he started. Maybe he does. Maybe wherever he is, he can see the chain continuing. See you stopping for me. See the scholarship. See all the lives that are different because he decided to help a broken down biker 30 years ago. Rachel squeezed his hand. And maybe that's heaven. Not harps and clouds, but knowing that your kindness rippled forward through time and changed the world in ways you never imagined. Derek liked that idea, liked thinking that Bill knew his $100 bill had turned into something bigger, that his simple act of stopping had created a movement. They finished their coffee in comfortable silence. When they left, Derek held the door for Rachel. She smiled at him, the smile of someone who'd been saved and had saved others in turn, creating an endless cycle of grace. Outside, Derek's Harley sat gleaming in the parking lot. Rachel ran her hand over the chrome. This is what carried me to my interview. What changed my life? It's just a bike. No, it's a vehicle for change, literally. Rachel laughed. You ride around on this thing looking for people to help. It's like a superhero's transportation, except instead of a cape, you have a leather vest and tattoos. I'm not a superhero. You're exactly a superhero. You see people in trouble and you stop. You use your powers, your knowledge of engines, your willingness to help, your ability to see people's worth, to save them. That's what superheroes do. Derek climbed onto his bike. Rachel watched him, and he saw in her eyes the reflection of who he'd become. Not an ex-con, not a scary biker, but someone who stopped for crying women on the side of the road. Someone who helped. Someone who mattered. Thank you, Rachel said, for stopping that day. For everything since. For showing me that my work matters. For being proof that teachers can change lives. Thank you for teaching me to read. For not giving up on angry Derek who didn't want help. For being the reason I can do any of this. We saved each other. Yeah, I guess we did. Derek started his engine. The familiar rumble settled into his bones, a sound that meant freedom and possibility and the open road. He had places to be, people to see, a life to live. But first, he had a highway to ride. And on that highway somewhere, someone would need help. A broken down car, or a flat tire, or just a moment of human connection. And Derek would stop. Because that's what you did when someone had stopped for you. You stopped for others. You created the chain. You trusted that your small act of kindness would ripple forward in ways you'd never see, but that mattered more than you could imagine. Bill had taught him that. Rachel had reinforced it. And now, Derek was teaching it to others, one stopped motorcycle at a time. He rode out of the parking lot, heading east towards wherever the road led. Behind him, Rachel stood watching until he disappeared around a corner. Then she got in her car and drove to Mountain View Academy, where 30 students waited to learn English, and, if they were lucky, the more important lesson Rachel had learned from a biker on a Montana highway, that helping people matters, that small acts of kindness ripple out through time, that teachers and bikers and truckers and everyone else who stops when they could keep going are the threads that hold the world together, that we're all just broken down on the side of the road sometimes, and the only thing that saves us is someone deciding we're worth stopping for. Rachel taught that lesson every day. Derek lived it on every ride, and somewhere, on highways and in classrooms and in moments of connection across the country, the chain continued. One person helping one person who helped one person who helped one person, forever. Because that's what Bill started 30 years ago when he stopped for a broken down biker. And that's what would continue long after Derek and Rachel were gone. The chain, unbroken, spreading kindness like wildfire across a world that desperately needed it, one stop at a time.